I'm skeptical of the ratings on my anime list. Even lousy shows get away with an average rating because trying to weigh the value of a story in numbers is an insane idea. A while ago I took a glance at the best rated movies list and was surprised to find Hotarubi no Mori, or To the Forest of Firefly Lights in English, ranked at number 8. How did this tiny movie I've only heard about because I wanted to know what other things Takahiro Mori has directed end up on art level with critically acclaimed and timeless classics like Spirited Away, Princess Mononoke and Howl's Moving Castle? My name is Kristin, this is STALK, and today we are going to find out how well it can keep up with those luminaries. To the Forest of Firefly Lights tells the story of Hotaru, who spent every summer with her uncle's family ever since she was little. One day, while playing in precisely the part of the forest she was forbidden to enter, she gets lost and is found by a boy called Gin. Gin leads her out of the forest and also explains to her that he is a spirit who must never be touched by a human being, and advises her to never come back. The next day, Hotaru of course searches for the boy to thank him for saving her, and the two of them end up spending the day together. And the next day, and the day after that, until the last day of her holidays has come. She promises him to come back next year and we tag along through all those summers they spent together as Hotaru grows up. Since there's only one thing that really bugged me about this 45-minute long film, I'll address it now to have it out of the way and then continue to praise it for the rest of this video. To the Forest of Firefly Lights is based on a manga one-shot by Yuki Midorikawa. This problem I have won't bug you if you never came in touch with any of her works before. I'll step aside for a second and let someone explain who is very experienced with this problem I have.
モデルがいないとどうなるの？
そうだな。
鈴木くんがいっぱい。
どうしても自分好みの顔になってしまってな。
マミコ、鈴木と仲良くなるなんてやるじゃないか。
もうからかわないでよ。
マミコは俺にこそふさわしいだろ。お前のようにいやらしい顔した男にマミコは渡さない。俺二人みたいにかっこよくないけどこの気持ちだけは負けないよ。さあマミコ、一体誰を選ぶんだ？
どれでもいいよ。
All of Midorikawa's characters look the fucking same. To me, all of her male protagonists look like Natsume, and the female leads either like Sasada or Taki from Natsume Yujincho, since that's the work of hers I'm most familiar with. There are worse things an artist can do, and I love the stories and settings she's able to create way too much to let this stop me from watching or reading them, but it does detract from the experience. In general, her stories only share remote similarities, but the identical artwork makes it hard to tell them apart. It's especially striking in To the Forest of Firefly Lights' case, because the manga is the second part of a collection of 4 completely separate stories, which simply have been published as an anthology. I didn't know that when I started reading them, and was confused that the first chapter didn't start with Hotaru being a child. And Gin, who wasn't supposed to be touched by people, was attending the same high school. It took a few panels and the character's introduction to figure out that they had nothing to do with each other. The characters just happened to look identical. Especially in a one-shot, it makes bonding with the characters a lot harder, and is a flaw that can be avoided. Since the characters in the anime adaptation can't just happen to look completely different from the original work, they share a striking resemblance with Natsume Yujinsho's adaptation too. Plus the production team is the same, only the anime has the possibility to use different hair and eye colors to give every character a slightly more individual feeling. That's pretty much the point where I'm starting to gush about how much I liked anything aside from that. So feel free to leave now and watch the movie, or if you want to know more, then feel free to stay with me. Something I forgot to mention in my Natsume review, and that I only realized after watching its latest OVA and To the Forest of Firefly Lights, are the stunningly beautiful backgrounds by Yukihiro Shibutani. No matter if it's a summer or winter scenario, I love the impeccable environments he manages to capture. From the choices of color over the way light falls through trees, to the moss-covered stones and stairs. The numerous tori, lotus flowers, shadows and mist only add to the magical feeling. The thing I like most about Shibutani's backgrounds is that they still look like they were painted set on canvas. The only thing that could have topped the backgrounds in this film in my eyes was if the story was set during winter, because his winter settings are my favorite. There are some unnecessary CG leaves at the beginning that can annoy you if you have an eye for them, but that's something so minor you will probably have forgotten about it by the end of the movie. Everything is accompanied by a Makoto Yoshimori soundtrack that once again displays his distinctive style and skill, while it mostly consists of simple yet beautiful piano melodies fitting for a simple yet beautiful film. It also contains more playful and bizarre pieces to underline various spirit encounters or festival scenes. Say what you want, I really like his style, and the ending song Natsumo Mite Ita completes the movie splendidly. But to be honest, everything I've mentioned so far is only frill, compared to its most memorable feature. It made me fall in love, head over heels, with those two characters over the course of 40 minutes. Except for the boy in Iron Man 3 and Sasuke and Mei from My Neighbor Totoro, I seldom come to like kids in pop culture. Most of the time I consider them annoying, too grown up, or a straight up parody. Writing kids that are relatable to both children and, well, I don't want to say adults, a more or less mature audience seems to be a really tough task only very few directors and authors are able to achieve. I wish I was half as good a writer as George R. R. Martin, and even he admits that he has trouble understanding and therefore writing children and women, which seems pretty legit. Imagination and the ability to create memorable characters are the two traits of Hayao Miyazaki I appreciate the most. It's almost astounding how the man who lately only called attention to himself by making grumpy old man style commentaries is also one of those people who can bring across how children perceive the world. That's why I enjoy Totoro a lot more than Mononoke Hime, for example, although I consider it the better movie. To the Forest of Firefly Lights has a vibe very similar to the universe and characters Miyazaki created. Hotaru was a very cheery and almost goofy girl at the beginning, playing tricks on Gin, not listening to anything that doesn't seem reasonable to her, but also smart, dreamy and enthusiastic. Gin, on the other hand, is trying to take care of her as much as possible and enjoys being with her as he is someone to spend his time with. He's curious about humans, which again is welcomed by Hotaru, for she has found someone who is genuinely interested in her. Also, he's a spirit, who wouldn't be fascinated by that? The way the relationship between Gin and Hotaru slowly grows over the years, and especially the last few sentences Hotaru says at the end, were such a beautiful and profound depiction of love and everything that comes with it. I actually expected the end to be super sappy, but it was perfect, very well rounded, and everything I could have wished for those two amiable characters. If Yuki Midorikawa manages to end the Natsume manga in a way that is half as good as this story's ending, I couldn't be happier. So, does it live up to the expectation? Yes, it does. It deserves every high rating it gets, and it can stand proudly between all the timeless classics. I might even say if it was a bit longer, it's the type of story Ghibli would have put out a few years ago. To the Forest of Firefly Lights is your perfect lazy let's curl up on a couch and watch something Sunday movie. It's not faffing about, but it gives you enough of everything to involve you. It's definitely something you will enjoy if you like fairy tales and fantasy stories, and if you like anime with a rather classic and more drawn look. Of course you will like it if you like Natsume Yujinsho. Cut out the romance part and what you end up with is basically an episode of Natsume Yujinsho. That is why I consider it a quick fix if you're yearning for a new season that probably won't happen before fall 2016 because the director's busy with Durarara. If you believe a movie has to have a certain length and character arcs with major ups and downs, and you're definitely not into this romance and superstitious stuff, then you will definitely not enjoy this movie. While writing the script, I got thinking about the problems a lot of former glorious Japanese companies like Ghibli seem to have at the moment. Switch the industry and we'll see Sega and Nintendo struggle in a similar way. So I wrote and ended up with a 3-page long outline, and that's pretty much what I'm going to discuss next week before we dive into winter season. If you want me to talk about a specific show, then let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you next time.